Most golfers think they need to try harder to rotate their hips, but the truth is, your body might be stalling just to save your swing. I'll show you exactly how to rotate properly and what's actually stopping you from doing it. All right, let's get into some drills here to train hip rotation, how to use hip rotation while staying in posture. So we're gonna do a few. First one, I'm gonna grab an alignment stick. I'm gonna put it through my first belt loops. We'll kind of get it set up like this, more of the alignment stick out on this lead trail side here. I'm gonna get a chair, some object that's high enough here. I'm gonna get to a spot that if I go and kind of thrust my hips towards it, like for me, my right hip towards this, I'm gonna go and hit that. My goal here is that after I do my backswing, I'm trying to learn how to keep this belt, my pelvis underneath me as I rotate through here, okay? This is helping me stay in posture and how we did kind of this pelvic tilting. Learning how to kind of stay in posture, rotate, and then thrust through later versus what most people do and just go and smash into this right away standing up. And so it's a different motion for a lot of players to learn, stay under, rotate, keep this belt underneath me as I'm rotating. I want to be thrusting this way, right? Not out there. Back, rotate. This could be thought of, you could think of, you have that chair behind you, but I just find that just by having a chair on your bum, that doesn't give me this same sensation of keeping this under me and back as I'm rotating and through. So the next drill here is using a resistance band. And this is one of my favorites because resistance is stopping you from doing something you want to do. So it trains you to have to use your muscles. And then once you get rid of that resistance, things just become easier. So what I got is part of this resistance band over here on a stationary object. The other is tied around the end of my golf club. I'm gonna put the golf club behind my back like this. And I wanna set up with this being pulling me in this direction. Okay, so this is how it would set up. Now from here, all I wanna do is set this club flat against my back. I don't wanna be using my arms in this drill here. This is more just kind of set back there. I'm gonna rotate into my backswing. And now from here, I want to go and try to push out of the ground to get my lead hip to go back and fight through to a normal finish. But with this resistance here, if I don't do this properly, it's going to pull me over towards the golf ball. So I need to get this sensation, my lead knees opening up, my hips opening up. From there, I'm feeling this push out of the ground to accelerate this rotation back around me here. And stay nice and balanced and solid, okay? So golf posture, backswing, rotation, push from that lead side to get that hip back around, and then fire that trail side through, all right? After you do this a few times, once we go ahead, kind of take that off, you're gonna find that it just becomes so much easier to kind of work through that resistance since we don't have it there anymore. So I go and make a swing. Most of the time what happens here is we go and do that and we've been using this resistance that we just fall backwards because you actually start to use the ground better. We start to rotate better. We're getting more speed through the ground, through that rotation, through that kinetic chain, whipping through. The next drill is the lead knee rotation drill. And the biggest thing to understand here is that from the hips down to the feet, like we're all connected through bone and tissue and whatnot. So if I want to get my hips to rotate, I need the lead knee, the lead leg to start opening up a little bit here. Because imagine if my knee just stayed aiming right at you and I'm trying to open my hips up. Well, I can't rotate. If this stays aiming at you, I can't get this part of my body to rotate. This is stopping me. I need to get that rotating a bit to help free up this rotation all the way through. So for this, I just want to get the sensation that go to the top of the swing. From there, I just want you to play around with this sensation of opening this lead knee up, okay? It's almost feeling like you're kind of moving it on like a little circular motion here, trying to go from the inner part of the foot, trying to trace it to the outer part of the foot. Just starting to open it up, windshield it here a little bit. And once you start to get that, then you'll start to be like, oh wow, like this lead hip of mine kind of wants to go with that. And if you've ever been a player, because there's lots of them, if you've ever been a player where that lead knee just kind of stays in here like this, good luck rotating. You're eventually just going to kind of like stand up, jump, because you never were able to first clear the hip at all because of that knee restriction. All right, so what we do from here is I want to go and hit a couple shots with this. I just want to get to about kind of half backswing, feel that knee starting to kind of open me up a little bit, get that hip rotation started slowly, and you can see how kind of slow I'm starting this, but you'll be able to see that knee moving. And then from there, we can just go through. I don't mind wherever you kind of get to on the finish. Could be half swing, could be full follow through, but the backswing is just kind of small. But I'm just starting this golf swing with that lead knee, and you can do a couple rehearsals just to kind of remember what that feeling is. Okay. At least this is starting to train us to help us understand what part of the body parts are needing to move to get the hip rotation happening. Start small with this, and then we start working our way up. So once I'm kind of starting that transition, that lead knee starts to open up. Now here's the big one. Rotation is super important in the swing, but it often breaks down because of something that happened earlier in the swing. So later on this video, we're going to talk about these root causes like steep shafts, open club face, things that stop the body from rotating, early extend, flip. We'll get into that later on in this video. All right, next let's do the uppercut drill. So this one is going to help train more of the trail side to kind of get through. So you can imagine that if I wanted to go and throw an uppercut, don't need a golf club for this, and I'm trying to go this way with it. Okay, I'm standing here, I'm going to go rotate and uppercut here. I don't want to just go and do this, right? I'm not going to just kind of slide over an uppercut like that. I need to stay grounded, thrust through here with my pelvis. That'll help drive this up, okay? So guess what? We need that lead side to open up first. Lead knee moves, lead hip moves. Then I can get this trail side, front of my trail hip, kind of thrusting through. This has to move out of the way before I can thrust through, right? And so just a good analogy is thinking, okay, I'm here and I'm gonna go and thrust and throw this uppercut, okay? And this is gonna start training this trail side how to push. It's gonna get the lead side how to get this lead hip out of the way while this trail side pushes through. You can do this at home, maybe not something you want to do on the driving range, thrusting these uppercuts into the air. But then from there, trying to get that sensation, okay, lead side back out of the way, trail side thrusting through. Okay, again, these are ways that are really going to help you. I just feel so much faster, right? Once you start using this part of the body with rotation, push off the ground, it just seems to kind of speed everything up from there. So same kind of thing with the lead knee drill. Get that lead side out of the way. Really feel that push and that thrust through there. And I mean, it just takes off different. So once you kind of build that, you'll find that the speed just naturally starts increasing. Now let's get into my favorite area of why you can't rotate. The things in your swing that cause your body to compensate. So number one, a steep shaft in the downswing. Steep shaft in transition. What we need to understand is if this shaft gets steep, which often is kind of started with getting across the line and starting down steep, if we get steep at all in here, guess what? I don't want to stay in posture. I don't want to rotate hard because I'm going to be smashing down into the ground. It's going to hurt. So I'm figured out. My mind is wired to kind of save me here. So I'm steep. I'm going to stop rotating. I'm going to stand up because that's going to kind of allow me just to brush the ground. I might go and slide, right? Things like that. So we need to get that shaft away from being too steep. One of my recent videos on, I wish a golf coach had told me this sooner, learning how to get that shaft in a better spot at the top of the swing. Because if I can get that shaft in a much better spot at the top of the swing, it's going to make it so much easier for me to come down with less steepness where I can stay in posture, rotate, and compress that golf ball. Second reason why you can't rotate is an open club face, okay? When we get that club face too open in the downswing, then what happens is obviously we need to close it. And so the best way to close it is by rolling the arms over like this. People just feel that that's how we're going to close the club face. So guess what? If my arms are trying to roll over, they extend. They're reaching here. If I'm reaching, I can't stay in posture. Otherwise, I'm going to go deep into the ground. So I'm gonna stand up to allow these arms to rotate. But from there, as I'm standing up, anytime I'm early extending, my body stops turning. So I need to get that club face. I'll link one of my videos up here at the top on how to maintain a square club face through the swing. Because if that face is square, I don't need to stand up and try to flip it. I can stay in posture, I can rotate, face is square, I can compress it and get that ball shooting off straight. Third reason why you can't rotate is the pressure getting too far out on your toes. So if I'm in the downswing and for whatever reason, maybe it's set up, maybe it's just the way I'm moving in my swing, my pressure gets too far out on my toes. From there, I can't rotate. If I did rotate, I would fall over. So instead of doing that, I'm just gonna stay here in this comfort zone of balance and not rotate. I'm probably gonna really extend as well. So we gotta make sure through the swing, balls of feet is as far forward as we're gonna go. So that once we're in the downswing, that I can rotate here and I don't have this sensation like I'm on my toes and falling over. Rotate, finish into a good balanced finish there. And then one of the other ones that I often see why players don't rotate is just that they're only swinging with their arms and they don't have the body going. So then you kind of see a player that's just, I'm trying to stay really solid here. I don't want too much movement, thinking that movement is going to be the enemy. It's going to cause directional issues. But the problem is, if we don't get that body moving in sync with each other, we're not going to be able to time it and sync it up. So we need to make sure the body rotates. It rotates. I don't want to just see arms only here, because then now we're just lacking ourselves so much speed. Okay, make sure that we're getting rotation going back, rotation going through, just like that kinetic chain. That's going to help whip that speed into the golf swing. So before we jump into training hip rotation, we need to see if we can physically move the way we're asking our body to move. So we're going to start with a quick self-assessment here. I have a 6-iron on the ground, and we're going to do a TPI lower quarter rotation test. So with this 6-iron on the ground, I have an alignment stick kind of running along the base of the club. This is kind of developing about a 60-degree angle here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start on my lead side here, because we're really going to be training rotation in the downswing right now. So standing straight up on my left leg, right toes on the ground, right knee bent, keeping that left foot planted on the ground here. I want to stand tall and I want to get rotation as far as I can to this side, keeping my left foot planted. I'm going to check this hip line here relative to this alignment stick on the ground. If I can get there, great. But if I can't quite get there, then that's obviously telling me physically it's going to be really difficult to rotate through the shot. And then we're going to kind of offer some suggestions on what we could do to help get some better rotation out of that side if you are limited. And then we could do the same thing on the trail side. So I'll flip this around. Same setup. Right leg straight. Rotate to the trail side. And again, now this is helping me understand if I have limitations rotating around that trail leg here into my backswing. So now that we figured out if you have rotation around the trail hip, lead hip, now I want to check to see if the pelvis can move in another direction that's going to be important in staying in posture. So this is the pelvic tilt test. So all we're going to do, we're going to get a golf setup, pretend we're holding onto a 7-iron, golf setup, arms crossed in front of the chest. Now from here, what I'm going to try to do is try to tuck my bum underneath me and see if I can really flatten out that back there. So keeping my head and chest in the same spot, can I get this pelvis to tilt down here, getting this curve in the low back? I want to see if I can keep the head and chest in the same spot while doing that. And if I can, that's giving me the mobility and freedom to be able to use this pelvis properly, keeping this butt back, staying in posture. So many people talk about, my butt's coming off, I early extend. Well, then we do this test and they can't actually do this. All they can do is this. So in the downswing, they just instantly do that because their body can't physically move like this, how it's supposed to stay in posture before they actually start driving through, which should happen later. So let's just quickly talk about how this pelvis should move through space in the golf swing. So at setup, I like to see just a little bit of pelvic tilt here. I don't need it to see super flat, but I don't want too much pelvic tilt. Too much pelvic tilt is the enemy on this, because then it kind of locks our pelvis in rotation. I can't turn anymore, even if I wanted to from here. So I need to get that butt under me a little bit. A little bit of pelvic tilt here is good. From there, in the backswing, it kind of maintains that tilt here, right? I'm not gonna go and tilt under. I'm not gonna go down. So, but then from there, if we watch it from this side, the pelvis here, there is a slight shift to the trail side with rotation, right? So if you kind of see here, from where I start, I don't want to go, and let's move it over just so you can kind of see movement here. I don't want to go way over here and move over a few inches. Really what I'm going to do is I'm almost just kind of staying in the same spot. But you need to understand is the pelvis is an oval shape, right? It's not a pure circle. So that means that if you see my pelvis staying roughly in the same spot, or my right hip's roughly staying in the same spot here on this line, that means that I have to have shifted over here to the right slightly as I'm rotating. I like to see that because we're coiling, we're rotating around this trail leg. I'm loading into this trail leg as opposed to a lot of players kind of doing something like this. Now we kind of get kind of stuck, having a sensation of a little bit of a bump as I rotate from there. I don't want, and again, I'm just using space as an example, I don't want to actually see a big move. It should just be kind of staying on that line where we started. Tiny bit of gap's okay there, all right? Now from here, looking again, this pelvis in space, I want to get this hip shifted over to the left side. So lateral motion with rotation, those things are happening at the same time here. Lateral with rotation. Okay. When we look at it from down the line here, what I want to see is, and this is where we'll see a lot of tour players, right? It's like, how do they keep their butt on that line here so well? How do they keep their head in posture so well? Obviously the club and everything's in a good spot, but this pelvic tilting in this direction, right? Versus a lot of players go and thrust under like this right away. We want to feel this anterior pelvic tilt a little bit down, and that's what's really keeping my butt pushed out as I rotate here. I stay in posture. Now I start to drive through with that thrust. Okay? So we got a little shift to the trail side, little rotation, tiny bit of pelvic tilt. From there, I'm starting to shift and rotate back as I keep this pelvis in a slight anterior tilt. That helps keep that butt back. I rotate, I thrust through. Okay, so just a very kind of quick overview of how I want to see that pelvis moving in space through the swing. So now let's start transitioning into hitting some shots. We're going to start it slow, work our way up, but there's some main points that I want to remember here. So as I'm setting up, I want to remember that I do want a slight bit of shift to the trail side with rotation. I'm not going and banging over here too much, just a slight shift with rotation. From there, I want to have the sensation of that pelvic tilt staying here, not thrusting into that posterior tilt right away. That's going to help me stay in posture, like my butt stays back, my head stays forward. We can almost think of like the thighs to my chest is creating like I'm a mouth, right? I'm trying to bite something here versus opening. So we go up, kind of bite the golf ball there. I'm getting the sensation of my lead knee opening up, allows that lead hip to open up. From there, now to kind of finish it off, I'm pushing from that lead foot back and around me to keep that momentum going of that rotation. And so I'm just going to go and start to kind of feel these things really slowly. It's a lot to kind of put together if this is kind of brand new for you. So there's no rush. I'm going to load into that trail side. I could always pause, do a few rehearsals. It doesn't have to be perfect. I made contact, great. And then from there, we work our way up with the speed. If you do find that you are limited in hip rotation, this is a really good thing to keep in mind. It's just one point I wanted to add here is just that I don't want the toes of the feet pointing straight forwards. especially if you lack in hip mobility. If you're a junior, a young kid, or someone who's got a massive amount of hip rotation and mobility there, it's okay. But otherwise, let's say you want more backswing rotation. You're struggling with getting rotation on the trail side. I want to take that trail foot. I want to flare the foot out a bit. Not a ton, but a bit, because now that opens up this trail hip to get a bigger hip turn. Alternatively, on that lead side, since we're working rotation through, getting that lead foot opened up more. Now there's more freedom of rotating through. The biggest thing I want to understand here, though, is I don't want both feet flared too much, because now, since this foot's flared so much this way, and I try to go, even though this is rotated here, as I try to go and get rotation back that way, this foot being turned out so much is causing this strain through the groin here, and I can't go anymore. So even though this is turned out, that one being out too much causes limitation in my ability to rotate here. So if we're gonna go and get some foot flare on both sides, just a little bit, and that'll really help me kind of get a little bit more rotation this way and a little more freedom of rotation through the lead side. Let me know in the comments below which drill worked best for you, or if you have another drill that you want me to hear about. So get to work on those drills, understand how the pelvis should move in space during the golf swing, and then understand how things like a steep shaft and open club face really affect your ability to rotate. Check out some of my other videos on teaching you how to get that shaft in a better spot at the top and get that club face more square through the swing.